Howdy, friends, and welcome to episode 17 of the Run from the Norm podcast. I'm your host, Jayk Reynolds. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you a conversation that's been brewing in my mind for some time now. My guest is someone I've known of for years, but never actually had the chance to sit down for a real conversation with until now. That's Leone Rusher, who's the owner of Shoes Idaho Running Company. In this episode, we dive into her journey that took her from growing up in a small logging town of Chawela, Washington, to eventually taking over as owner of Idaho Running Company from founder Mike Shuman, about 3 years ago, roughly. We also discuss how she maintains sanity and balance as not only a business owner, but a passionate and dedicated wife and mother of 3 kids. And as a side note, I'm super stoked to tell you that we have our very first sponsored episode of the Run from the Norm podcast. Leone and the team at Idaho Running Company have generously offered a 10% discount on a new pair of shoes starting today, January 24th, going through Valentine's Day, February 14th. So go get your sweetheart some new kicks and grab some for yourself and just tell them that you're there to run from the norm. You tell them that and you're going to get that 10% discount. How cool is that? You can learn more by going to idahorunningcompany.com. Just put it into your favorite web browser, or you can just go straight to the store, 1758 West State Street in Boise, Idaho. And with that, we're going to jump right into it. I think you know what time it is. It's time to run from the norm. Leone Rusher, thank you for joining me today and making the drive all the way across the valley in rush hour traffic.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've known of you for years and years around the area here, and I think we've probably ran into each other at some point or another, whether in the store Shoes Idaho Running Company, which you are the owner of, and you have for about 3 years now, you said?
It'll be 3 years in April.
Okay, well, I do want to get into how that transpired and how that happened. So Mike Shuman obviously started the store, and I've had him on the podcast before as well. Love Mike and Kit. She's a sweetheart. She's a firecracker. But I just want to start out with asking you, why do you run?
Why do I run? I run for the sanity of life.
Yeah.
It was just something I found that I enjoyed doing, and I could go do it by myself. I could do it whenever I wanted to. And I kind of got into it after I started having kids, and aerobic classes didn't coincide with nap time.
Oh, geez.
And I needed to figure something out. So
get outside for some sanity.
Yeah. Well, running on the treadmill is where it all started.
Oh,
at the
really?
gym, pretty much. Yeah.
Interesting. And you said it was after you had kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how old are they?
Oh, goodness. Almost 29, 27 and 25.
So they're off on their own, kind of figuring their lives out now. And where did you grow up?
North of Spokane in Chawela, Washington.
Chawela. What's that like there?
It is a little logger farm town, one stoplight, about 2,000 people, something like that. My grandparents had a farm, and so my dad was a trucker, and he hauled grain down to Colfax to the elevators for them and other local farmers, and dumped the grain or whatever, barley or whatever it was, onto the barges, and then they headed off to Japan or wherever.
Wherever it went.
Yep.
Yeah, what was school like for you?
School was
Were
fine.
you an athlete?
I was not.
No?
I did do track.
Okay.
I did some softball. The only reason I did track was because there was a boy on the team that I liked.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But because of that, I did letter.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was never really into sports
What were you
growing
into?
up.
What were your hobbies?
3-wheeling, horseback riding.
Oh, okay. So you're out rolling in the dirt and...
Yeah, swimming, just kind of hanging out with friends and doing whatever you do in a small town that I didn't get in trouble
Try not
for.
to get in trouble. Lots of bonfires.
Actually, I did not do that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I think I told you, when I was young, I was in Washington and grew up on a hay farm until we moved to Tri-Cities, and coming here to Boise when I was 12 or so, it seemed like every weekend was bonfires and, like you said, trying to avoid getting in trouble and everything else. But what brought you to Boise?
My husband actually got hired on with the Boise Fire Department.
Oh, okay.
And April 1st of 1991. And he moved down here and I stayed in Spokane and worked up there. And we were just dating at the time. And he got down here and 2 months later we were engaged and 3 months later we were married.
Oh, geez.
So.
And what were you doing in Spokane?
I worked for, it was like a convenience store distributor. They, handled like candy bars and just convenience food and things like that. I worked in the office and did the pick list for the warehouse and got the routes all ready for the drivers and data entry type stuff.
We met for coffee and we had a conversation and you said you love bookkeeping.
I do.
Can you explain that a little bit? Where does the love for bookkeeping come from?
Oh, I don't know. My grandmother was a bookkeeper and worked in a bank, and then she did bookkeeping from her home. And my mom did some of it, and I think just being around it. But yeah, it set me behind a desk with 200 file folders on a pile of papers, and I'm just like in hog heaven.
You're in your element, huh?
I am.
That's so interesting. So when you come to Boise, what are you doing at that point?
So after I moved down here, after we got married, I ended up going to work at Micron through a temp agency and just doing data entry there. And then I ended up being at Micron for, 4.5 years, something like that. And ended as a customer service. I don't even know what it's called now. I was the one that filled out the surveys that tech companies would send in and want information about, like the chips that they were getting.
Okay. Yeah.
I worked really close with the engineers and stuff on that. But yeah, so I worked there for about 4.5 years. And then when we had our first daughter, I'm like, I can't go back to work. I just can't leave her.
The pull of being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I understand.
And so my husband did everything he could so that I could stay at home. And
it's nice having that opportunity. When I had kids, my ex-wife, we did the same thing. We had that discussion and she wanted to stay at home, and I thought it was a great opportunity. And not a lot of people get the chance to do that. I think it's great for the kids too.
Yeah, I always said all I ever wanted to do was be a mom and a secretary. And I lived my life and I absolutely loved being a mom. And I got to stay at home for about 8.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And then just kind of fell back into the workplace. The subdivision where we worked or where we live, they had on-site realtors and they needed help with a parade of homes. And so they asked me and I was like, sure. And then just progressed into come and be an assistant for the new home sales manager. And we'll work around your schedule and Donnie's schedule. And so we never had to pay for daycare or anything like that. And
nice.
I somehow was always lucky enough to have a job or activities where I could work around anything that my kids were doing.
Nice. That's awesome. That's very fortunate that way.
Very, very fortunate.
So were you working from home then, or were you having to go into the office to do this?
I would go into the office because at the time, my husband worked 1 day on, 2 days off. And so on his 1 day at work, I would be home with the kids. And then on his 2 days off, he would stay home with the kids. And then I'd go to work for 4 or 5 hours and then come home.
Get your time in.
Yeah.
Get your social interaction.
Yeah.
And then when did you have the second kid? It's 3 years age difference or so?
So there's 19. Holy cow.
Put you on the spot.
Wow. 19 months between the first two, and then 22 months between the second, third.
Okay. So they're starting to get into, elementary, I assume, and then you're starting to do this part-time work. And at what point do you start moving into the running? You said you were going to the gym then at that point?
Yeah, so I started at the gym before we had kids, but I just always did the aerobic classes.
Okay.
And things like that. And then after we had our first one, went to the gym, ended up on the treadmill, kind of just got to be friends with other people that were there on the treadmills as well. And then after I had our third one, which would have been, she was born in 99, so about 2001, friend of mine that I ran with on the treadmill, he's like, why don't you do Roby Creek with me? And I'm like, are you kidding? I haven't even run a 10K. And so that's kind of where it all started.
Was running Roby? So
yeah.
Did you do a training plan for it or just go out and get it done?
I kind of did whatever this friend told me to do. I went with him and we would run up, the canyon and sort of had a training plan. I don't know. I had a training partner and I just did whatever he told me to do.
Nice. How did it go for you? How did Roby go?
It was fine.
How'd you feel afterwards?
I was sore.
Oh, geez, that downhill is brutal.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of focus on the uphill. Oh, it's going to be so hard to get to the top, but it's the downhill. It just beats you up.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I remember right, it was pretty warm that year too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did it and then...
The fire was lit?
It was, and I did full marathon like 3 months later, so...
Oh, really?
And then it just kind of all progressed from there.
Really? So I assume you must have been going into shoes then to shop?
So I ended up going in there. I was having some really bad shin splints and just not enjoying the shoes I was in. And so my friend, he's like, go over to see Mike and stuff. And so I did, and he was super helpful. And I walked out of there so excited to go running just because of the happy atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I don't know who can walk into that store and not walk out and want to go for a run.
Right.
Just the excitement for it and stuff. And then from that point on, that's when Mike and I got to be friends. And then, I don't know, we got to talk about training plans or something. And he ended up putting together a training plan for me. And then we just started doing some runs together. And then over the course of the next couple of years, we were full-fledged training partners. And
what was your goal at this point? Did you have target races, or was it just whatever happened to be, up next on the calendar?
Kind of.
Or just go out and run, and I want to get a little bit better if I'm going to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really had any running goals for a while. And then it was, I don't know, probably 2-3 years down the road, it was, let's see if I can qualify for Boston.
Yeah.
And let's see if I can qualify for New York. And, then it just kind of all progressed from there. And
I assume you did?
I did.
I've never ran any of the major marathons. I did a March of Dimes race in Tri-Cities. I did Great Potato here, and I think my best is 3:10 or a little over that, but I've never actually done kind of the same as you. I just go out to run, and I haven't really had a real focused training plan. It's just the more you do it, you get better just kind of by default.
Yeah.
So you're going in and out, of shoes, and you're training with Mike, and you're starting to kind of get these different targets on the calendar in New York, Boston, and all that. And so you're just a customer, or are you starting to work there? How does that hold? You said, hey, I love doing books. Can I do your books for you?
Well, so we got to be friends, and at the time, websites were not really the thing to have. They were just kind of becoming a thing for businesses to have.
And are you internet savvy too then?
I became internet savvy.
I was going to say, are you a closet programmer? You love to program too?
No.
Coding?
No. But he wanted a website and just some help on the back end. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, I'll do it. Fake it till I make it and trade for my running shoes. We were a one-income family.
It gets expensive.
Yeah.
What are you running in at that point?
I want to say it was the Saucony Tangent for a really long time. That was the shoe I wore
for years,
like 8 or 9 years.
So, and maybe this is jumping ahead, but you've obviously been around, the shoe industry for a number of years now. Do you dork out on the technical side of things, like, heel drop and stack height and all that stuff? Do you get into all that? Do you have like a preferred heel drop? And
I do have a preferred heel drop.
I do too. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't geek out on it like other people do.
Yeah,
but I definitely have my preferred drops.
What's your opinion on the overall best heel drop of a shoe and rough stack height? Would you say that there's a ballpark that you would push people towards? Somebody that doesn't know a ton about it.
I think it's all on what the person is used to and what they're actually wearing at the time. Going to a lower stack or
More
lower stack.
minimal.
Yeah, you have to be kind of careful because you don't want to pull an Achilles or
Right.
hurt yourself. I think that 4 to 6.
That's nails where I'm at too. I love 4 to 6. I ran in 0 for a little bit and innovates, and I did ultras for a while too, because there's some people, they're ultra, 0 drop. You don't tell them anything else. And then you got, the Hoka family that you don't tell them anything else. But I'm right there with you. I think 4 to 6 is a sweet spot. What are you running now?
Right now,
you have the whole store. I was going to say, you have a whole store at your disposal here. Do you have one that you go to now, or do you utilize the selection?
I utilize the selection. Right now, it's the Saucony Tempest.
Okay.
For my longer runs.
What is it about Sauconys?
I think they're just a good step-in feel. To me, they're not so squishy soft because I like a little bit firmer of a shoe. And Saucony just seems to fit that bill for me.
Yeah.
I have Hokas that I run in depending on what I'm doing. I have Mount to Coast shoes for some of my longer runs.
I haven't tried those yet. You like them?
I do like them.
Which I guess if you're running in them, you obviously do.
Yeah, I do like them. I've tried some Diodora shoes.
Oh, interesting.
2 of their styles, and really have enjoyed those. When I get into softer shoes, my feet just get real achy.
Okay.
And so I try to stick with something that's a little firmer.
Yeah, gives you a little bit more ground feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what would you say is your, again, kind of getting more involved in now the business side of things, what differentiates Shoes and the customer experience at Shoes from other stores?
I think when people walk in, they feel instantly comfortable. We try to make the atmosphere very fun, very welcoming. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're walking, getting off the couch, or anything. It's, we just want to help you get out there and feel good while you're doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
We have some of our customers that, like one lady, I think I was telling you about this, she came in a wheelchair and she hadn't taken 10 steps in probably 2 years, I think is what the story was. And one of my employees got her into a pair of shoes, and she was so excited because she actually took her first steps without a cane or anything. And she was just so excited. She was in tears and absolutely thankful. And
this was in the store? This was
in the store. Yeah. And it, that's one example of the people that we have helped. And it's just so, I don't know, I feel like a proud mom when I'm sitting in my office and I can hear the staff out there with customers and just the interaction with them and the conversations that happen. And it's just like, oh,
you love being there. So how did you maintain that then as you took over ownership? It has this pretty rabid following where for a long time, and I've said this before, you were in one camp, really. And it was, you either were Shoes camp or you were Bandana or Pulse or whatever. And fortunately, it's not so much that way now. But people just really, really supported the brand and the people in the interactions and that community feeling that they had. So how did you maintain that as you took over ownership now?
I think it was fairly easy because so Mike and I got to be friends, and I started doing the website and stuff. And then it was the newsletter. And all this time also I was doing real estate with the new home sales manager. I was kind of the transaction coordinator, which had a lot to do with lots of files. My favorite.
I don't know many people who would light up when they start talking about stacks of files getting handed to them. That's funny.
So yeah. But anyway, Mike just, I just started doing more and more stuff for Mike. And of course we were running pretty consistently and training together. And we were full on best buddies at this point. And then in 2008, when the market tanked, I lost my real estate job. And so I told Mike, I'm like, hey, you're going to put me on payroll now. He's like, okay.
I can't trade for shoes anymore.
Yeah. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I started sitting in on buying meetings with the vendors and
just learning the ins and outs of the business.
Yeah, just learning the ins and outs. And
are you involved with races too at this point? Or did you get involved with races?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, Mike sponsored a lot of events and things like that around
Very
town.
involved.
And yeah. So we had an employee that did that. Jeff Ulmer was the race director for a really long time. And so there was a group of us. We always did Jeff's races and would go do that and hang out at the booth afterwards and stuff. But yeah, the whole business side of things just kind of progressed. And I knew how important community was to Mike because of his experience when he had cancer. And
how was that? How did everything, I mean, I can only imagine what Mike's feeling going through this, but what was that shift and impact like at the store when obviously he starts going through this experience? Did you have to take more of a leadership role at that point?
So when he was going through his cancer treatments and stuff, I was not involved at the store at that point. I think he was finishing up his treatments when I first met him.
Okay.
But I was there with him when he had all the checkups, and then he had an issue with MRSA and just a bunch of other stuff. And then I guess when I really stepped up was when COVID hit. Mm. And I'm like, we got to keep the store going. And so it was Mike and I, we did everything we could to get people shoes, whether it was drive-up service, delivering the shoes to their doorsteps, just kind of whatever. And it was from that point on, which I was already kind of telling Mike what to do and how to do it in the business side of things anyway.
You're figuring it out and giving him the lead.
Yeah. And so it was just a very natural transition for me to buy the store from him.
Did he come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about getting out and here's a timetable, or was it fairly rapid?
It was. We were actually in talks with some others about buying it. And the closer we got to making a deal, I'm like, I'm not ready to be done. I can't do this. And so he was sitting in a chair across from my desk one day. I'm like, I'll buy the store. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'll buy the store.
And I guess without getting too far into the details of that, because I think every runner at some point dreams about owning a running store. I mean, how does that work out? Do you have to now go to a bank and get a big fat loan and buy all this stuff? Or was it just you have this relationship and fortunately you're able to work out a partnership to where it was a pretty seamless transition?
Yeah, it was a very seamless transition. Obviously being great friends with Mike and Kit, we were able to work a good deal, and it was basically signing papers and
keep things moving forward.
And I think too, because I was so associated with Mike.
Yeah, it simplifies it probably because he knows that you have his best interests because he's spent every bit of his life energy into building this thing too. So it's not like you're going to take off and just run it into the ground.
Yeah. Well, and I think I was telling you about this when we met. Mike was all about community. Mm-hmm. And I know what running did for me in my own life. And that's what we always strived to help people get moving, because moving is what has kept us alive.
Motion is lotion.
Yeah. And so we had the same goals for the store. I think in the time frame of me purchasing it, we were in kind of a transition of really defining what can we do with the store? How can the store benefit people? What can our message be?
How has that changed, or has it changed?
I don't think the direction has changed. I think I'm just defining it a little bit more because people that know me know my history and stuff. And I've had postpartum issues and with depression and anxiety. And then life happens and more of that became more pronounced in my life. And running just really helped me be able to focus and deal with things. Even though I'm not one to go out and run when I'm stressed, it was still helpful. And I know how running made me feel all these years and how much better I felt. And so getting people to know what that feeling is like is very important.
And how have you defined it further?
I think, so we still sponsor a lot of events or do donations of some sort, but ones that are military veteran, mental health, just they're just really important to me. And probably because of my own mental health dealings over the years, that, getting out and moving is just, even if it's 20 minutes, it can make a world of difference.
How much do you run?
Not nearly as much as I would like to.
That's where I'm at too. It's 10, 15 years ago, so much more.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your peak. When you were running the marathons and you're qualifying for the big races, what were you running at that point?
My highest mileage week was maybe 55 to 60.
Okay.
Which probably technically isn't all that high, but
based on the time that you have and everything else.
Yeah, it was a good high mileage for me.
What would a week look like from a training perspective? Did you have focused days where you did speed work and then you had your long runs?
Yeah, so like we did hill work on Tuesdays, speed work on Thursdays, long runs on Saturdays. And that was usually on the road, but sometimes we'd hit the trail. We'd always have hills. Sometimes we'd throw in a tempo run or stretch or whatever. And then the rest of the time, it was just kind of casual, easy runs.
Just go out and enjoy it.
Yeah. I always tried to keep my long runs kind of at that 15 minimum, even in the off season, because then if I decided on a whim to go do a marathon,
you could do it.
It's not that big of a jump.
Right.
Which now I'm like, oh my Lord, 26 miles, I'm just going to die.
How much are you running now?
I do 3 or 4 miles, probably 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
I just go out for the sanity of it and take my dog out.
Has it changed? I mean, you mentioned mental health, so I'd like to ask you a little bit about that. So from where you were, I'm assuming it was deeper in the struggle. Would you say that you're at a better point now where maybe you don't need to run as far, as much, as often? Or is it still just something that it's kind of chased you and that's just what you need to make sure that you can maintain the sanity?
I'm more stable in my thoughts and my thought processes.
And how do you think or let me rephrase that. What have you done to get to that point? Is there work that you have done, books you've read?
No books. It's a lot of self-talk.
Yeah.
I've seen like what my mom went through with some of her dealings in life. I don't know how religious you are or anything, but when I was going through some stuff, I'm just like, you know what, God, I can't handle this. It's all you. And the minute I said that, it was just like this huge weight was lifted and my thought processes were so different. I didn't have that self-doubt that I used to have, I guess, too. Just, I don't know. I think from running, I got just more confident in myself and what I feel, what I believe in, how I want to handle things. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. And the reason I'm asking is because I've had my own, dealings with mental health, and I've tried therapy once or twice, and I made a game out of it. I didn't get anything out of it. And so, as you're explaining what you went through, it resonates with me because it was somewhat similar. As I got to that point where, as I'm running, I'm realizing that this is something that makes me physically feel better. And then when I'm done, it's having a mental impact. It's putting me in a better headspace, which is leading to more positive self-talk. And I was raised in a very religious family, Mormon. I was baptized. And then at a certain point, without going too far into religion, because everybody's got their place.
Right.
It wasn't a place for me. But I have also hit a point where when things got really bad and there was times when I was on the floor, like, I just want this to end, where I kind of what you said is looking at the heavens like, I need some help here. I need some intervention. I need a sign. And I've had that moment where it was almost like a light switch went off and it seemed like my thought process was different. The sun was a little bit brighter when it came up the next day, and it didn't solve all the problems, but it was a little step in the right direction that you start building on.
Well, and I think for me, through running too, I got to know myself. So when I felt myself going down a rabbit hole, I could either pull myself up, or it's like, something is not right.
You're paying more attention now.
Yeah.
And you don't just want to, I don't want to say wallow in it, but you're making a conscious effort to say that this doesn't feel right, or I don't like this, and how can I switch it?
Yeah. Yeah. And so after I had postpartum after my oldest and didn't realize it at the time, but I remember being asked to make a salad for a potluck. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Oh,
I
geez.
that major overwhelmed feeling, which looking back, it's like, well, that should have been a clue, but it's moments like that you learn about yourself. And so after each kid, obviously bodies are different, hormones are different. And after my third one, I think I was laying in bed and I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I can't do this. I can't do this, And she's like, you have to. You have little kids. You need, but this is what you need to do too. She's like, you need to call your doctor, let them know. And so I got some happy pills. It took them for quite a while and was a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, obviously I have no idea what postpartum is like. If you're compounding that on top of already having some other issues you're struggling with, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And then, so I was the outside help, happy pills for a while, got off for several years, like 10, 15 years probably. And then there was an incident that happened and I'm like, I just don't feel right. I don't, I just knew.
You're rolling back down.
I was rolling back down. And so I had to get that extra help.
Get some help again.
And, yeah. And I did try counseling at one point, but it didn't really, I didn't feel like it did anything for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I know why I am the way I am.
Yeah. It's almost a curse being so self-aware because you know what the issue is. And it's almost frustrates you because you can't rationalize your way out of it, even though you know what the problem is. It almost makes it worse.
Well, and it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain. I feel like I'm going down this rabbit hole, but I know I don't need to, but I can't stop from going.
And as it gets heavier and heavier, you just get sucked into it.
Yeah. So I think through running, I have become very aware of how I feel mentally and physically. And so when I felt myself going down the rabbit hole, I was able to.
A little bit more proactive of taking care of it.
Yeah. And then, of course, later in life, like 4 or 5 years ago, I had some family stuff that was very difficult. And that compounded and really created some panic and anxiety. And I still have my trigger moments to this day, which hopefully they'll kind of go away the longer time goes by. But I think, just running, and I've chosen to have positive thoughts and not be full of anger and hate like some people I know.
And I think you said your mom had passed. Was what? Yeah. Were you close with your mom?
I was very close.
Yeah.
Very, very close.
How did your mom and the way you were raised influence how you are as a parent now?
I'm just like my mother.
Are you?
Yes.
was that intentional, or was that oh my God, I'm so much like my mom?
It was not intentional. It's a genetic thing.
Yeah. Tell me about your mom. What was her best quality?
She was always there for me.
Yeah.
She was.
Was she a listener? Did she give great advice?
She was everything. My husband would laugh, but he would give me the same advice, but it wasn't good enough until it came from my mom.
It's different.
And then for mom, it was, the word.
Oh yeah.
But no, mom was fantastic. She always listened. She was my biggest cheerleader.
What's one of your favorite memories of your mom?
Oh, probably. No, there's a lot of them, but I had a 1978 Z28 Camaro with T-tops.
Nice. What color?
It was white.
Was it an automatic then?
No.
Oh, you had the 4-speed.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. It was fun. But we went over to the coast, to Seattle, to my aunt and uncle's for my uncle's 50th. And we took the T-tops out and we drove the entire way over with the T-tops out. And we got there and we both each had one side that was sunburnt.
You've got driver's arm, she's got passenger's arm.
Exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, there's that. And, we used to do midnight taco time runs. Chawela is a about an hour and a half from the Canadian border. And there's a little town about, 25 minutes away. And so they had a taco time. And so we would go up to taco time and, get those good for you tacos and
get your taco
crisp
run
meat
in.
burritos.
Oh,
and, yeah. And then go sit at the park in the car and just eat them and hang out.
Just go to town.
Have a great talk.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I assume you're close with your kids. Are they around here, or have they scattered out at all?
2 of them are here, and 1 is over outside of Seattle.
And you feel like you embody your mom as a parent now?
Kind of. My mom was always very calm, cool, and collected for the most part. And she always knew something before I ever told her.
Yeah.
But I was always that.
Mom's intuition?
Yeah. But I was always the one, don't tell my mom we did this. She'll just, But 15 minutes later, I'm like, Mom, guess what we did?
You're telling on yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah. But I think the relationship that I had with my mom, it really did influence how I wanted to be with my kids. And just the openness, you can tell me anything. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's how my mom was.
What advice would you give your 18-year-old self with the experience and wisdom that you have now?
Probably actually live in the moment a little bit more.
Yeah. Why is that?
I feel like I kind of worry about the future.
Yeah.
It's like I had the Z28 Camaro. Yes, I paid for it, but my dad got it for me. It was one that we had before. And then as I got older, it came back around for sale. And so he bought it.
Oh, nice.
And so, but it's like, get the cool cars. You don't have to be practical.
Yeah.
And I know with mine, it's like when they were looking for their first car, I was like, well, is that going to last you a while? You want it to get you through college and you want to be able to, and so just kind of that live in the moment a little bit more and not really worry too much. Let pieces kind of fall where they may.
Yeah. Is that the bookkeeper side where you want to talk to them about their payments and what the interest rates are going to be?
Probably.
Yeah. So how do things look going forward now? Well, let's jump back to the store here. How are things going to look going forward for the store? You've owned it now for 3 years. Are you going to change the name? Is it going to be Leone's Idaho Running Company?
No. I think if anything, at some point, I'll drop the shoes part of it.
Yeah.
But, the customer service experience is still there. Mm-hmm. That's always been huge for me anyway, because I have worked in the customer service world.
Yeah.
And so that customer service thing is huge. I don't want my salespeople to be, oh, you got to buy this when you get these shoes. If the person wants it, you can mention it. But if they want it, they'll buy it. You don't have to have a new pair of insoles with a brand new pair of shoes. And I think that helps with the comfort level of the store when people walk in. So some of that stuff will never change.
Do you have plans to expand? Would you like to open a second store?
I mull it over.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know if I would want to or not. I haven't decided. I have my moments where I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. What would I be taking on?
Yeah. But it's kind of funny. My husband retired. It's been 5 years now in December. And he's like, I retire and you buy a store. What's up with that?
How does this work? You're like, well, you can come and work with me now.
Yeah. But Donnie's been a great supporter, and the store is definitely a love of mine. It's still a love of Mike's. He's still my confidant in the store. So I don't see a ton changing because our end result is still the same as when Mike had it.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Kinda.
Yeah. So obviously Mike had a huge impact on your running side of things. Was there anybody else, a key mentor or anybody that had a real direct impact on you?
Not really. I think just my friend from the gym got me started. And I think just the support between him and Mike and my husband and family. And as I progressed in running and the distances, it was just like, let's do this, let's give it a shot and see what happens.
How hard is it now that you're this involved and you're the owner and you're really responsible for everything? How hard is it to separate? Can you get away and go on a vacation?
Well, I haven't been on a vacation a true vacation in years.
If you could go anywhere, where would you go?
Probably Hawaii.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because that's the one place my husband and I have said we wanted to go, but we would only go there together. We haven't made it there yet, but hopefully soon.
That's on the wish list there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I assume you have to have good staff to be able to have everything run smoothly. Have you maintained the same staff over the years, or has it changed?
I have a few that have been there less than a year, but my main people, I think we're looking at 2 or 3 years at minimum.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I haven't had a ton of turnover, which has been great. And I love my staff.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's
Second family.
proud mom moments.
Yeah. How do you bring new people in when you do have to? Do you go through the resumes and people have to turn them in, or is it, you just happen to know the right people and they are a fit for the culture?
I think I just get a good feel when I sit down and talk to them.
Yeah.
I still have them fill out the application. I still look it over. I don't think I've ever called on reference checks
No.
or anything. I just sit down and have a conversation with them, and I go with that
The gut instinct.
that vibe I get. Yeah.
What's one of your craziest moments that you've ever had out on a run?
I'm not going to be able to think of any now.
It's a tough one.
Asked me.
I know. Sid did that to me when I was sitting with him. He asked me some really, really good questions. And as soon as he asked me, I went blank, but it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know if it's crazy. Mike and I did the Newport Marathon, and I was trying to qualify for Boston, and I did not like him when we got there.
Oh, I think he told me about this.
He was
riding you.
He was. He threw water at me.
That's right. He told me about this.
He asked if he almost got me a cab. He asked some lady in a minivan if she'd give me a ride. I mean, just
anything he could to get at you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not like him after that.
That's funny. Are you doing any mentoring or running with people in a similar fashion that Mike did with you now?
Not at the moment. My youngest and I just signed up for a 50K, and so we're going to give that a shot and see what happens.
Which one?
Weezer.
Nice.
Yeah. So I did that when it first started, and
such a unique challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's deceptively difficult, I think is probably a good way to put it, because I think you lose maybe 100 feet because it's an old railroad track.
Yeah.
But the mental side of keeping yourself going on such a flat course like that for such a long period of time is such a unique challenge. But you said you have done it before?
Yes. I think I've done it at least 2 times, if not 3.
And now you're going to run it with your youngest?
With my youngest.
Do your kids all run?
My oldest does not. My middle did until he had a ski accident and had hip issues and was basically told, don't run long distance or anything like that. He has since had a hip replacement, so we'll see what that brings. But my youngest is still running, but those 2 did track and cross country in high school, and Emma has just carried it on.
Does your husband run?
Nope.
No, wants nothing to do with it?
Nope. He's my supporter.
Yeah. He's still just giving you grief that you bought the store when he retired.
A little bit every once in a while.
Oh, that's funny. So in the next year, 2 years, where do you see things then?
I love what I do at the store, and I just want that to show through. My staff loves what they do at the store and helping people. And my main goal is to just have that show through.
Yeah.
I have always wanted, even when Mike had the store, I want people to feel comfortable when they come in. And I try not to forget that feeling of when I first started, how nervous I was to walk into a store.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people to feel that nervousness. And Mike always said this, and it sticks with me to this day. The pavement's as hard for me as it is for you.
Oh, yeah.
A mile is a mile, and who's the real athlete? The one that's out there for 2 hours or the one that's out there for 8? Mike had lots of little things like that.
Mike-isms?
Yeah, and they pop up in my head all the time. But I just want people to be excited about being outside and moving.
Yeah. Well, you've been a good sport, letting me ask you all kinds of questions here and pick your brain on all things running and your history and everything, and I appreciate you being a good sport. But I'll wrap things up with the question that I like to ask everybody at the end of this. It's a tough one to answer, but I'm curious what your answer would be. So what does legacy mean to you? And what's the legacy that you want to be remembered for?
that I was always there for my family and my kids. I don't know that I have a true legacy thought. I've never really
It's a tough
thought
one,
about it. It
right?
really is.
It's another one of those where you get thrown at it and your mind goes blank. It goes 1,000 different directions and it can be hard to define.
Yeah. Family first and professional wise, I couldn't tell you.
Just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, you never know.
You never do know. I mean, who thought I would ever own a retail store?
You might continue your love of bookkeeping in
Yeah, who knows?
another spot. That's funny. Well, Leone, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me. It's been a blast getting to know you better.
Thank you for having me. And hopefully I didn't just like ramble off into no man's land.
No, that's the joy of these. Is it's just a unique conversation and you never really know where it's going to go. And I appreciate you being open and just being willing to sit down and have the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the conversation and getting to know you as well.
Absolutely. So
It's been great.
for people that are listening that want to learn a little bit more about either running or Idaho Running Company and either re-engage with the culture that already has been established, or they want to see what that's like for themselves because they never have experienced it before and they want to get into it, where can they find you? Where can they find the store? And how would they go about that?
The store is at 1758 West State Street in Boise, right across from the original Albertsons. I'm in and out of the store a lot between work and grandbaby and all that.
But you have an amazing staff there that's happy to take care of them.
I do. I love my staff.
I always think
in case I haven't said that already.
I always think of Paul Lindauer every time I go in there because I've ran with him. I'm not sure if he's still there.
He is. He says hi, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Paul. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So for anybody that either needs help or wants continued help, I hope they come in and see you and see the staff. We'll look forward to seeing you out on the roads or the trails.
Definitely will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of the Run from the Norm podcast. A huge thank you to Leone Rusher for taking the time to chat with me today, and to the entire team at Idaho Running Company who are there waiting for you to pop in and get fitted for a new pair of Valentine's Day kicks. Just head over to the store at 1758 West State Street in Boise and tell them you're there to Run from the Norm. They'll get you set up with a sweet 10% discount. And as always, a heartfelt thank you to you for sharing your time and listening to this episode. I hope you were entertained and found some value in this conversation, and I encourage you to watch out for even more stories coming your way soon. We're dropping it like it's hot. If you're enjoying what we're doing with this podcast, please do me a favor and like and follow the Run from the Norm Facebook page for future podcast releases, and you can also learn more at www.runfromthenorm.com, where you can sign up for our monthly newsletter where we send you just a short wrap-up of everything that we've shared in that prior month. It's just another way we're trying to provide value and make it easy for you to not miss out on any new content. With that, I encourage you to stay curious, keep moving forward, and get outside to run from the norm.
Check that mic, make sure it sound right, boy.